Our top story tonight, the FBI investigation into what they are calling a second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump is underway.
With only hours left before Election Day, early voting has officially ended, setting the stage for a highly anticipated and decisive day tomorrow. Wednesday morning, Donald Trump became the 47th president of the United States, becoming the second president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Meanwhile, the Senate also turned red, where Republicans have a majority by 2 seats right now, with more races still to be called. And of course, all eyes remain on the House, where both parties are still fighting for control.
With Republicans currently holding the presidency and control of the Senate, the race for the House is closer than ever. Republicans are just 5 seats away from reclaiming control of the House, a victory that would allow them to shape the full agenda in Washington.
On Friday, a meeting between President Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky turned into a heated argument as Donald Trump continuously pushed the Ukrainian president about the war in Ukraine, a ceasefire, and the response by the world.
Breaking news tonight following an email sent to Ithaca College students explaining how Ithaca College is among 6 institutions under federal investigation for alleged violations of Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination in federally funded programs.
Liberation Day has just had breaking news from the White House as Donald Trump is now threatening an additional 50% tariff on China if China does not remove the 34% tariff placed on the U.S. by April 9th. This would bring the total tariffs on China to 104%.
We welcome you now to our extended coverage of Evening in America. We will continue first with continued coverage of the Pope's death at 88 years old. Our international correspondent, Christian Grotto, has the story.
Buona Pasqua.
Less than 24 hours after giving a brief Easter blessing to thousands in St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis has died on this Easter Monday. The Pope died today at the age of 88 after serving 12 years as the Pope, 12 years as a cardinal, 11 years as a bishop, and 28 years as a priest. Pope Francis, the Church's 266th Pope, was known for his humility, receiving the title of the People's Pope. One of his largest focuses was helping the marginalized and the poor. He is known for being one of the Catholic Church's most progressive popes, sparking controversy over several different topics, including LGBTQ inclusion, stating, "If a person is gay and seeks God and has goodwill, who am I to judge him?" He has also relaxed rather strict rules surrounding divorce in the Catholic Church, saying that in some situations it might be morally necessary. The Pope's death follows a 38-day hospital stay through most of the Catholic season of Lent, after he was diagnosed with double pneumonia. The White House posted sending their regards, including photos of both President Trump and Vice President Vance with the Pope. The photo you see of J.D. Vance was taken just yesterday during his visit to address the Trump administration's immigration policies, which Pope Francis disagreed with. The Pope's funeral date is yet to be announced, but will be within the next week. From London, I'm Christian Grotto.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has threatened to walk away from Ukraine-Russia peace talks if progress is not made soon. Speaking following talks in Paris, Rubio said that the U.S. cannot afford to continue negotiations without results, noting it's not our war. President Donald Trump backed Rubio, warning that if either party makes it too difficult to reach an agreement, the U.S. would, quote, take a pass. Rubio expressed frustration with the lack of movement from Russia in the talks, while Trump said he hopes for enthusiasm from both sides. Rubio indicated the next round of talks in London will be crucial, specifically highlighting that without clear signs of progress, the U.S. may step back from its role. The Kremlin responded, indicating they see some progress but are not in a hurry to finalize a deal. Both sides have been accused of violating a recent ceasefire, and U.S. officials have expressed concerns over Ukrainian President Zelensky's comments about the U.S. envoy, which were unsupported by the U.S. administration. The situation remains tense as Rubio stressed the need to make decisions in days, and the U.S. contemplates its next steps in the peace negotiations. Now, we send it to Kiara with more updates.
Thanks, Devin. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of creating a false impression of a ceasefire as attacks continue, despite Russian President Vladimir Putin's announcement of a unilateral temporary truce for Easter. Zelensky reported multiple instances of shelling and assaults by Russian forces, despite Putin's previous claims. In total, Ukrainian forces recorded 59 cases of Russian shelling and 5 assaults on Sunday morning. After the ceasefire expired, Russia resumed hostilities. launching 96 drones and 3 missiles, targeting eastern and southern Ukraine. Zelensky called for a longer 30-day ceasefire, citing the need for a true peace-building measures. The U.S. government expressed support for an extension of that truce, but Russia's response soon followed with an escalation of attacks. Both sides continue to accuse each other of ceasefire violations, further dimming prospects for long-term peace talks. Despite the tension, no major damage or casualties were reported immediately following the renewed attacks. Devon, back to you.
We're now joined by Ithaca College professor Zenon Wazalou, who focuses on Eastern Europe. Professor, it's great to have you back on the show.
Well, thank you for the invite. It's a wonderful program.
Well, of course. I want to start off with the Easter truce that we discussed. That truce didn't stick, but from your perspective, what was the strategy behind Putin's announcement and the eventual break of the truce?
Well, I believe that Putin was using it, for his domestic audience to kind of show that he is interested in peace and perhaps another global perspective. The reality is, of course, that the truce was broken. And on Palm Sunday, Russian missiles hit the city of Sumy, killed 34 people on a religious holiday. So already you set a precedent of not only having attacks on civilian populations, but also on during holidays. And also another piece is that Putin portrays himself as being a very religious person, and also being connected with the Russian Orthodox Church. But the reality is far from the truth. So there's a public image that has to be kind of maintained and pretend to show that religion plays an important role, but that's not the case. And you know, one example that recently happened, a 19-year-old woman recited some anti-war poetry and then expressed sorrow for the annihilation of the Ukrainian city of Mariupol, and she was arrested and put into prison for 3 years. So as long as no one challenges him and kind of public consumption statements, but the reality is far from the truth.
That seems to be a consistent theme under the rule of President Putin. From the Ukraine perspective, where do they go from here, especially now considering the perspective of the U.S.? We saw Marco Rubio come out with a statement on this recently. I'd like to show you that as well.
We need to figure out here now within a matter of days whether this is doable in the short term, because if it's not, then I think we're just going to move on from our perspective. The president feels very strongly about that.
Where do you see Ukraine
we need to figure out
going from here?
Well, in 2014, you had the Revolution of Dignity, and the idea was to become a member of the European Union. Unlike the United States under this administration, and the irony is that Rubio used to be far more supportive, but as Secretary of State, he's kind of following a new line that's taking place. But the European Union is really offering very strong support. And I think for Zelensky and for Ukrainians, their desire going back to 2014, and especially now, is to draw greater ties with the European Union, and the European Union continues to be much more supportive, and they are building up their own military as a guide with taking greater role in NATO as well.
And looking at it from President Zelensky's perspective, there's now dealing with pressure not only from Russia, but also from the United States, especially after that meeting we saw in the Oval Office, where there's been a lot less support for Ukraine now after that meeting.
Well, another reality is that public opinion in the United States is still supportive of Ukraine. I think support for Russia is 9%. And you know, many Republicans are still very supportive of Ukraine as well. President Zelensky's a smart guy, and he keeps on building alliances, and he sees where the alliances are more with Europe rather than the United States. One footnote to all of this is that the United States is looking to sign a mineral deal because Ukraine is very rich in rare earth minerals. And so that's another piece of the pie as well. But Zelensky has a right to be outraged. They're hitting civilian populations. They're hitting universities. They're hitting schools. There's a live broadcast from a Palm Sunday church service in a Baptist church in Sumy. Boom, just like that. And so a number of issues. To analyze what President Trump is doing is difficult. I've never heard him be critical of President Putin and perhaps wants a fast solution. But again, it's beyond the United States. And I think Zelensky and Ukrainians have to rely more and more on the European Union.
We have had some pressure from President Trump to look toward a peace deal soon, but now for this coming summer from Ukraine, what type of support do they need from their allies, and what might the summer look like?
Well, air defense systems, that's really critical. And, you know, Ukraine has quite a bit of their own drone technology. And not only that, but if you look at the Black Sea, the Russian Navy has been totally neutralized. There's that famous scene of the battleship Moskva saying give up, and the Marine, well, gestured. I won't do the gesture here, of course. And the ship was destroyed. So people are wondering, why would the United States allow Russia to remilitarize in the Black Sea? And that's especially the residents of Odessa.
Professor, thank you so much for joining the show.
Well, you're welcome. We could go on for hours.
we could.
Devin, it's very nice talking with you.
Thank you very much.
This is our last political panel of the semester. And because of that, we wanted to talk about this summer, what headlines you should know as a viewer and continue to follow. And first of all, thank you all so much for joining me. Nolan, I'll start with you. Heading into Trump's first 100 days, the end of it, what are you seeing out of these, and how do you think his approval rating will fluctuate?
Right, well, at this point in time, I'm not going to lie, it looks pretty bad for President Trump and the administration. He's going to have a hard time recovering, as it's really going to have to be uphill from here. Historically speaking, approval ratings drop after the first year, so this is really his time to convince the American people that he is the man to do the job. And according to his poll numbers, he's not able to do that at this point in time. So if this is where we are at less than 100 days, things aren't looking that great for the Trump administration. And this could certainly influence Kamala Harris's decision on whether or not she'll run in 2028, which she said she will decide upon by the end of the summer.
It's the most polarizing approval rating in history when you compare Democrats to Republican, a state of our country right now on full effect. Travis, you've covered Doge throughout this semester quite a bit. We know Elon Musk is set to leave in May. How will the future of Doge look, and how will its policies continue to affect Americans?
Well, I feel like without Elon Musk, without that strong face, that strong figure leading them, I feel like Doge will probably fall back into like the wayside in terms of what they are doing. They will probably continue to do what they are supposed to do. I do not ever see Doge becoming an official government agency, but I do think that they will continue to look for fraud and abuse of money as they say they have been.
And Kiara, we've seen the Trump administration kind of alienate nations such as Canada, Mexico, China with tariffs, including alienating some nations through annexation. When you look at those conflicts, how do you see the future of that playing out, and how do you think these strains will impact what the summer looks like politically for the United States?
Yes, I do envision how things will not change as much during the summer, since the actions that he has done in terms of tariffs and the trade war he has started with, like Mexico, Canada, and China, will have very deep consequences, and it already has had the, like, in terms of relationships and economic-wise. Talking about China, that has already responded with like more than 100% of tariffs, and is already considering for new providers and imposing minerals export restrictions. Canada has seen increase of nationalism from the population and the administration, and hostilities keep increasing. The only hope I see in terms of foreign relations is the one with the European Union, since Trump has recently accepted the invitation to Rome from the Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. But probably it will take a while from now before things will restore, and maybe it will take a new administration.
Kiara, Travis, Nolan, thank you all so much. It's been a phenomenal season. And that does it for our season finale of ICTV's Evening in America. I want to take this time to thank you for following since the show we started last fall and for following us our full hour-long broadcast tonight. And thank you to our producers, 3 of whom are graduating: Liz Wiley, Charlie Nichols, and Ryan Harmon. It's been so wonderful working alongside you, and I know the entire cast and crew can say the same. Another producer, Nash Carlisto, thank you as well. And thank you to all of our other seniors, Lindsay Peters, Duncan Tasker, Connor Smith, Jack Punda, and Molly Kiernan, for all of your hard work. We will see you next fall, where we will continue to bring you the most important political stories affecting the local area, the nation, and the world. One last time, I'm Devin Jarvis, and have a good evening in America.